My name is Sonny Williams. This is my wife, Kristen. We're from Alabama, and we moved to Goshen, Indiana back in August of 23.
And within a couple of weeks, we began visiting Harvest. And we just really enjoyed it here. We began to do the build track. I heard Jim mention Downtown Ministries and that they were about to start a recovery program. I really felt like it was all God led us here.
I grew up in a Christian household. My mom, my dad, and my older brother. My parents, they worked hard. They tried to bring me and my brother up the best that they knew how. It was just your typical normal family.
I grew up with my grandparents, actually. I knew them as mom and dad. We didn't grow up going to church. I knew that there was a God. I was never taught how to pray or that God was there for me. I was introduced to drugs at a very young age. I was 14 the first time I used a substance. I felt like that's what I was looking for. Like I said, I was in a sheltered home, so I just felt like that was a freedom. You know, all the kids were doing it, so you didn't think that it was anything bad.
So I just started using drugs when I was 12 years old. Inhalants had gained popularity because it was readily available. It was at every, Walmart, whatever. A group of us just kind of fell into it. It began the vicious cycle, 25, 30 years of my life.
If I could give you one word to describe addiction, it is loss, because I lost everything. At 16, I quit school, I moved out, and my life was just a nonstop blur. I had bits of sobriety when I got pregnant with my daughter. I got clean, just long enough, really, for her to be born. And then, addiction would creep back in. I would go to the doctor and get prescribed Adderall or something that I thought was okay to use because the doctor gave it to me. And within, a year, I was a full-blown meth addict again. And then I had another daughter, same scenario. Back to the doctor and then back to the streets. And I thought I was a good parent. I loved my kids more than anything in this world, but I just could not quit using drugs for them. Ultimately, I went to jail. I lost custody of my kids. I really hit rock bottom and lost everything.
I think one of my biggest downfalls was getting prescribed Oxycontin. I completely manipulated the doctors into prescribing me a massive amount of those drugs. It really, really depleted my life, and I had nothing. I'd lost my house. I was married before, and I lost my marriage, and I lost the ability to see my first daughter. Everything that I had worked for was gone. That just drove me to a very, very dark place. It went from hills and valleys to just valleys. The only thing that got me up in the morning was the drugs. I became the person that I hated the most.
The last time I got arrested, I look at it like I got rescued.
I remember the day that Kristen went to jail. We had pretty much run ourselves completely out of everything. Food, gas, drugs. We was running from her bondsman. I was still on probation. I had just got out of prison, and we just couldn't run anymore. And she called him and said, "Hey, just meet me here, and I'm going to turn myself in."
God, he sat me down and stripped everything in the world from me, where I had nothing but him. I started reading the Bible while I was incarcerated, and it was the first time that I'd ever read the Gospels or heard the Gospels preached with a sober mind. Everything I was reading would just jump off the page at me, but it was like everything I was asking and everything I was crying out in my mind for, it was here, and it was here all along. And I remember finding one scripture, and it said, "Create in me a clean heart." And I repeated that over my life every single day, and I watched God change me from the inside out. I watched him turn me into a different person.
She finally taught me into going to church one Easter Sunday, and I was very reluctant. I didn't want to do it. She taught me into it, and I went, and it was perfect. it really began to spark my interest in wanting to build a relationship with God. And he planted a seed in me. That's really where it all turned around.
I think that it's a really big God wink that in the year 2019 we walked into our first church service together. It was an Easter Sunday, and then here we are, 2024, giving our testimony before the church. If there's one way that I know that there's a God, it's because of what he did in both of our lives. Our life is the definition of the grace of God.
He's delivered us from such a wrecked life to such a great one.
I just have hope. There's nothing that could separate us from the love of God. And that no matter what we go through, what we walk through, what we've already walked through, that he's been there and he's not going anywhere.